Hi everybody, I thought I would film a video talking about the planners I used in 2021 and my plans so far, because they are subject to change as always for 2022. So in front of you here you can see 3 items. Now I didn't start off the year with these 3. I'm going to start off the year with this one, which is the Hobonichi Weeks with the swallows cover. But these 2 I introduced in about March, I would say. So I'll talk about this one because this is probably the easiest one. I bought this Hobonichi to use for work planning. So I am sort of self-employed. I sell illustrations online and I have a Patreon. And I just wanted to have a small book that I could kind of keep a track of how everything was going. And now I have fallen off using this a little bit, but I absolutely still love it and I still want to keep it and sort of have it in case I need to use it just before the end of the year. But I won't show you what's inside because it's not all that thrilling, but just like writing down like work tasks that I need to get done and like to-do lists and things like that. So that was very useful and very much enjoyed in 2021. This one in the middle here is what I'm calling my anything book, which is sort of like I just shove anything in. It's a Commonplace book. I did actually end up using it more for work than I intended, but I'm going to go through that in a minute and explain how I use that one and then what I'm replacing it with. And then this one on the end was my everyday carry. So inside this pouch I have an A6 Stalogy. Now again, this one I started off using in April time maybe. Because I actually started off the year in a Japanese version of the Hobonichi Techo, the A6. But I ended up not using that one because I didn't like having daily pages for to-do lists planning for the day. Like for me, for planning, I think I need to have a weekly view. Daily view is really good for journaling and things like that and memory keeping. But in terms of planning, I didn't like writing a to-do list on one day. And then, I don't know, I felt like it committed me too much to that day of what I needed to get done on that day. And days can sometimes go completely awry and then you have to do something completely different. Then you have to write all your to-do lists out again for the next day. I prefer to have it on a weekly format with my to-do list of what I need to do that week and then just try and do it when I can within that week. That's just how I work. So I got rid of the A6 Hobonichi fairly early on and replaced it with this Stalogy. And in terms of thinking about what I want to use for 2022, when it came to Hobonichi launch time in August, September, that's when I tend to start thinking about it. Actually, that's a lie. I probably start thinking about it in January for the following year. But when I start seriously thinking about it in like July, August time, and I try to take a few things into account. So the first thing I try to take into account when I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do, first thing I do is I say, I'm going to accept that I may change my mind. I think that's really important that I give myself that flexibility and I don't beat myself up about it. And there's no point doing that unless you're, losing lots of money. And in recent years, I've been quite cautious with money. I've been all right. But I accept that things are not going to work, but that it's good to try anyway to see if they do work or not. So that's the first thing I do. And then I do look at my budget and I make sure that I'm not going crazy. So for example, for 2022, I'm not buying any expensive covers like I have done in previous years. And in fact, I've sold quite a few covers because there are more financial constraints this year. And then also another thing I like to take into account is archiving, because I really don't like archiving 400 books each year. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm one of these people that, possibly because I moved house so many times, I get quite stressed having lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of things, including diaries and planners. And if I have like 10 partially used planners on my shelf, it kind of really, I don't like it. It sort of stresses me out. So those are the things I put on myself to try and constrain me, to try and calm me down a bit. Money and remembering that I've got to archive and keep all of these things. But then on the flip side of that, I also say, okay, it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to experiment, and also just to remember the fun and the pleasure that there is to be had with like planners and notebooks and things like that. So that's the kind of the mood I sort of go in with. And then I try to identify what I actually need, and then sort of a bit of what I actually want. So in terms of need, so for this year, I needed to have an everyday planner that I could keep boring things like when the rubbish days are, when I have to put the rubbish out for certain plastic recycling, blah, blah, blah. People's birthdays, appointments, dentist appointments. In recent years, I haven't really had that much going on because of, you know, the epidemic and things like that, the pandemic. So I haven't actually needed to have that much written down, but I expect that will change next year, hopefully. So, but an everyday carry just to kind of keep the practical things, the day-to-day, the family events, the family commitments, and things like flight details and, you know, things that are actually happening day to day. So it is strictly planning rather than journaling. And then I do like to have a notebook for work. Now, I'm not sure how that's going to work next year. I have a feeling that I'm going to be blending my work into something different, a different project, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But for this year, I was using this planner to kind of keep my work things separate. I do like to keep my work and then my family life kind of separate. It just kind of works better for me in that way. Because I feel like this is about like the outside world and everybody else and interacting with other people and keeping up commitments to other people, whereas work for me is quite personal, and it's more about my personal development and my own like myself, I suppose. So I kind of like to keep them separately. And in the middle, I have what I was using as a catch-all, which is just like anything random. And it did end up being a bit of work and a bit of like personal thinking, but it was always very separate to this. My everyday carry was always very separate. So when it comes to deciding what I need, I know I need something everyday carry that I can take with me out and about, hopefully a bit more. I know I need a space where I can just dump anything without any rules or constraints. And then sometimes I might need like a work or a personal development planner. So these are the things that I'm looking to replace for next year. So I guess it's kind of 3 things so far. Now there is one thing missing from here that I haven't done this year, and I did a bit of it at the beginning of the year in a strange format. But basically memory keeping. Now there are sort of like things stuck in here that could be, you know, that are sort of memory keeping. But I didn't this year have a place where I was like really sticking down photos and journaling about what we did on each day. I haven't done any like daily journaling this year. And I do want to pick that up next year. So I feel like there may be possibly maybe a 4th element coming in, but I haven't decided yet and I haven't got anything for that, and I'm not sure if I will. I'm not sure yet. But at the moment I'm looking to replace these 3 with possibly a 4th thing. So I'm just going to go through each of them in turn and explain my thinking at the moment. So next up I'm going to talk about my sort of commonplace, anything goes notebook, which I just use for putting any odd thing in basically. So this is the Midori MD paper cotton notebook cotton, in the size F0. So it isn't in the like A5, A6, B5, B6 system. It's actually in something called an F system. So F0, and it's something to do with art and painting, and it's supposed to be like a good format for artists to use, I guess. This cotton notebook used to come in A5, and I used to have it in the A5. And then when I came to look at it recently, because I wanted to get a new one, I discovered that it isn't actually in A5 anymore. It's in F0, which is the sort of closest equivalent. It's a little bit shorter, basically, than an A5. I think it's probably ever so slightly narrower, but it's slightly more square in format. So yeah, I have another one. I don't use any kind of cover on it because I just paint and stick things on the cover. You can obviously, no you can't actually, I was going to say you can get a plastic cover for it, but you can't because there's not actually any covers that come in F0. I mean, it's such a random sort of size. So yeah, it's not going to have any kind of cover on it, it's just like that. So as soon as I finish this, I just open this one and I carry on. But it's basically, I've been using it as a catch-all. So I don't regularly memory keep, I don't regularly scrapbook. I tend to just do sort of things quite sporadically. And because the only other system that I had for the most of the year has been a very sort of functional system, I needed a space where I could just kind of stick things down, doodle, do whatever, kind of be completely flexible. So I decided this was going to be it. So this is my anything sort of commonplace type book. So I'll just give you a sort of very, very brief flip through, just to show you the kind of things I do in here. So as I say, sticking stickers, sticking scrapbooks down. If I work on Patreon, I sell my designs and my artwork on Patreon, and I often just stick everything in here because I kind of work in here as well. So this is one of my calendars for Patreon. So this is back in April. I make kind of notes on things. I've done pen tests. So tiny, if there's journaling, it tends to be fairly brief journaling. It's not like anything particularly in depth. It's just grab the book and write it. A lot of it is in here is like work ideas. So notes about a website. That was a theme for one of my Patreon months earlier in the year. Sort of like if I need to work things out. So this is me trying to work out how to do things on Etsy differently. This was me working on a website. It's just a kind of a place to work everything out in my head a little bit, but it tends to be things to do with work. I do have this one to hand downstairs, and my son and I sometimes have little drawing sessions. So this is from a drawing session we had earlier in the year. So he would do a bit and then I would do a bit. Postcards, if people send me cards and postcards, I plonk them in. This is again me doing sketches for Patreon projects. Working out what I'm going to do each month. My son had a little go at drawing. I think he's copying this one. I like having his stuff alongside mine, and I don't feel like precious about it. I'm quite happy to have him do stuff in here. Yeah, just all sorts of things really. If I have something and I think I want to keep it, if I want to experiment with something. Obviously I have other sketchbooks on the side. I have like watercolour paper sketchbooks, and I have those for when I do like the proper artwork. But this is just a space if I wanted to sketch out some ideas or get something down, I can do that. So this is getting on for June, I think now. This was the theme I did for June. Yeah, so nothing that's intended to look particularly good or fancy. That's my son's drawing again. He's very into Minecraft. I like this page because it's like a combination of my notes and his drawings, and it's all mixed in together, which is really nice. Yeah, so I'm just going to continue using it the same way, basically. I'll just go to the end of this book and then just start the next one. So this isn't, it's not technically a planner. It's not like a life planner, but because I use this to plan work and I use this to plan projects, it kind of falls under my sort of Techo Kaigi planning for next year. You can see that's me getting onto my Christmas theme. Sort of ideas about self-development as well, like things I want to focus on in life and things I want to, some ideas I might have about creative projects. This is me testing out a new calendar style I think I'm going to do for my Patreon next year. It's going to be a vertical one. And then I did actually use this for when the Hobonichi release came out, the Hobonichi launch. I sort of went through some old Hobonichi magazines and cut things out that I liked and had a sort of a think about what I want to do. This illustrator, Mogu Takahashi, she does these brilliant paintings, really loose type things. And it looks like she has, she's got the Japanese A6 Techo there. And she uses that every year with a black cover, and it just gets covered in paint because that's what she does. And she's even painted on the cover here. So I thought that was really interesting, the way she uses hers. So yeah, just some thoughts about which planner I want. Am I going to buy any? Sort of like ideas for how I might do it, which are all completely not going to happen, by the way. Changed my mind. Couple of these two I like, but I never bought them. The gingham covers, these were. They're quite hard to get hold of. I thought they'd be quite popular secondhand, but people who have them seem to be keeping on to them. This girl, she really inspired me. She looks to be quite young. I don't know how old she is. She's a school child, but she carves all these beautiful stamps, and she stamps them and does all sorts of things in hers. I thought that was a really nice idea, her Hobonichi. So yeah, just a little bit of thinking about planners, then back to doing my Patreon planning, planning my Christmas journal here, some more sketches, more doodles for ideas, my son's drawings. This is a drawing by Eplinka, who I was a patron of. I've had to stop now for financial reasons, but she does these colouring in sheets and you can print them off and colour them each month. Yeah, just kind of random stuff. Basically, I think we're coming to the end of it now, and this is a whole load of ephemera that I haven't put in. That's another one of her drawings. Halloween pudding we made, my son and I, a couple of postcards, and a tea thing. What does it say? We're born wise and we're born complete. There we go. So that's how I've been using that one. And as I said, it's just going to be a straight swap, and I will just be replacing it with this one when I get to the end of it, which I think, I don't know, maybe a couple more months. It depends. I haven't used it too much recently, but I'm going to be getting back into it soon. The cover, I don't decorate it to begin with. Like, I quite like to do it as I go. So I would imagine that the reason why this is painted blue is because I had some blue paint in a palette and I wanted to use it up because I don't want to waste it. So I just plonked the blue on. And then as I go, I was sticking bits of washi tape. These are from my Patreon, so I would have just stuck them down as I came through the year. So these two journaly ones were from August, I think. And that was probably July, I think. I did sort of a buildings theme. I can't remember now. But yeah, just kind of stick things on as I go. So that's what's going to happen with this one. It's just going to evolve. I'm just going to use it for however I want to use it. So it's the most flexible sort of format for me, and I like the paper. Now the reason I like the cotton paper is because you can just write on it, scribble on it and not feel too precious. But at the same time, if you want to do pencil drawings, it's so nice to work on with pencil drawings and things like that. So that's my first decision for 2022 is just to simply carry on with this one into here. So in terms of the work planner, next year we're making quite a large change. Well, it is a large change to our lives, and I feel like things are going to go in a different direction for me, work-wise anyway. I'm planning on keeping up with Patreon, but I also need to sort of work towards more non-creative financial income, I suppose. I need to get a job. Another job, and along with that there's a lot of personal development that I want to really, really focus on. So for me, my sort of work planner isn't going to be about just Patreon and drawing things each month and getting them out to my Patreons digitally. There's also going to be a lot more self-development, a lot more sort of, how can I say, I want to do some training perhaps. I might want to go back into education. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do yet. But I want to have a place where I can sort of focus on like myself, I suppose, my own development. And I'm going to try and do that in a cousin. Now, I've had cousins in the past and failed to use the whole thing. I think it's quite a challenge. It's such a hefty book with all the different formats of pages and things. But I'm going to try. Now, if it doesn't work out, as I said, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. But my idea for this is that I use it to sort of focus on getting myself where I need to be in terms of my career and in terms of work. And I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do it yet. And for me, I suppose work and a career is tied up with my own confidence and my own sort of skills and my own mindset. So I'm thinking about doing things like on the monthly pages, I'm thinking about doing gratitude, but then I've been thinking about doing daily gratitude for the past 5 years and I still haven't done it. But something like that, or like an achievement of the day. Having been out of like official work for 8 years now, I've not had a job where an employer pays me directly, like I go to the job and they pay me. I have obviously not that much confidence at the moment about everything, So I was thinking perhaps for using the monthly page to write down like an achievement, like, yes, you did that, like you applied for a job or you updated your CV, or like doing something every day to kind of remind myself, like to keep myself on track, moving towards my goals of, actually earning more money. So I'm possibly going to use it for that. I may use it for gratitude, but then I think gratitude I might be able to put on these pages. Now I've used these before as reference page, like an index for reference pages. In previous years, I bought the Cousin and I've just written notes on it because I just love the format, and I've ignored the dates, and if I'm reading a book, I'll write notes about that book, and then I've written like made this into an index. Sorry, my brain is just suddenly decided it's had enough and decided to switch off. But yeah, so like on the 18th of April, if I wrote about a certain book, I would then come to the 18th of April and I would write book notes and then the name of the book or whatever. I might use it like that, but actually what I'd quite like to do is try and use it daily. Try and use it to talk about how the day went, what I got done, what my plans are for moving forward. Whether or not I'll do it daily, I'm not sure, but then if I don't do it daily, I can always use the blank pages for notes. Now the weekly are the ones that I usually struggle with. I just don't ever use them. So I'm not quite sure yet. Maybe I could do the gratitude here. Maybe I could do task lists for the day and have like that as a weekly view, because I do like to have task lists in a weekly, as I said before. So I might say this week I need to get done, I need to update my CV, I need to apply to 3 jobs, I need to research some training, blah, 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 blah. So if I put those there and then when I do them, I could write them in. I've got lots of ideas at this point. If you've got any ideas or if you have any links to any videos or somebody who's done something similar, do let me know because I'd be very interested. So yeah, I don't know exactly how I'm going to use it yet, but this is meant to be sort of replacing my work planner. So it's going to be a combination of Patreon work and then me trying to develop my career in other ways as well. So that's the first replacement. So in terms of my everyday carry, like the basic practical planning day to day for the full calendar year, this year I ended up in a Stalogy. Now, I bought this case secondhand, well not secondhand, it's handmade. I just thought it was so crazy how it was like yellow and orange and like the sort of like the floral here and then like the sort of quite old-fashioned fabric here. I just thought it was so like, I don't know, well it's unique and quirky and I quite like the colours. So I bought this. It's actually a sort of health notebook case here in Japan. You would put your health notebook in here, like documenting all your prescriptions and your doctor visits and stuff. And then in here you have 2 like business card pockets for your, cards for your clinic and things. I just keep my Stalogy, my A6 Stalogy in the back here. And then in the front pocket I have a cut down, actually no, is it cut down? Is it cut down? Yes, ever so slightly. I've cut about 1.5 centimeters off the bottom, just so that it would fit in here. Hobonichi notebook, which I have like, as you can see, important information in like numbers, things that doesn't change year to year. It all goes in here, and then next year I can just keep this with me. I don't have to write it all out again. So that stays in there. And then I usually have just a pen in the bottom. Now I have in previous months and weeks had stickers in here and bits and bobs and ephemera and stuff, but I've actually just cleared that all out. But that is what I would use that pocket for. I just have this pen which is a firm favourite of mine. I use it a lot, which is the Pilot High-Tech C Coletto. I'm just very fond of it and I've been using it for a few years now, so that stays in there. So in terms of the Stalogy, so an A6 Stalogy, and I have it in the Midori clear A6 cover. So in terms of decoration, I didn't do too much decoration, but I just did a little bit just to kind of keep it fun and to keep it sort of like, I don't know, personal. So I just stuck a couple of stickers in the front here on the nice grey end sheets. Stuck some sort of images that I liked for like a 2021 header sheet. Including my son's drawing and a picture of a squirrel and a cup of tea, because those are the things that I like. Now, there's quite a few blank pages in this setup because when I was setting it up, obviously I did it myself, I had to draw everything out myself. I wasn't sure what I would need and how many pages I would need. So I've left blank pages for in case I want to use it for. So this would have been left blank in case I wanted to use it for an index, or if I wanted to use it for like a vision board or anything else. But I haven't obviously used it so far, but it's just there and I don't mind that it's blank. I have a 2021 calendar here that I printed off, and I got that off Etsy. The shop name is Simple and Trendy Co. So 2021 calendar there, and this 2020 and 2022 calendar is actually just cut out from the Hobonichi that I did buy and then I ended up not using. I'm not going to do a really detailed flip through, I'm just going to show you roughly how I set it up, by the way. So this is a consumables tracker. I just write down when we start using certain things like shampoos or toothpaste and things, just so I know how much we're getting through in a year. It might be useful in the future. Another blank page, another couple of blank pages actually. And then we have the calendars. So I did the calendars how I like them, Monday start, and just kind of decorated the page a bit. So they all basically look like this. And I ran washi tape up the edge, the same washi tape, so I can see, looking at the side of here, that all of the pages with the washi tape on are the monthly calendars. So they basically look like that. Not particularly, I decorated them how I wanted to. I expect some months are not particularly fancy. It looks like I was doing like a colour scheme at one point. And in between all of these calendar pages, I think I left about 2 or 3 spreads. So if I just show you April for an example, so I have my calendar, and then I have a spread which I just put like a collage of our photos from that month, and I just print these on my printer. I use a photo collage app on my phone, and I print them on A6 size on sticker paper, and I just stick one there and one there, and I just have that between every single month, just as sort of a little mini version of sort of like memory keeping. And then there's usually another few pages in between the calendars which I just use for like random collage or random sticking. So this is like some happy mail I had in that month, and I just stuck that down. So between each month, it kind of depends. This month I stuck down my son's drawings and did a sort of a doodle here, random things. Which I think I did actually work really well. I quite enjoyed having that sort of flexibility of a space between and then just sticking down whatever. Some months obviously didn't get used that much. I got blank ones here, but I'm not bothered. I don't care about blank pages. But yeah, that's how I set up my monthly calendars. Now at the end of all my monthly calendars, I thought it would be a good idea to have some reference pages that are like relevant to the year. So I have things like monthly spending for the year, task lists for the year, things I specifically want to do for the year. And I've got like a page for my husband, a page for my son, a page for me, things that we're going to do in this year. But actually, I wouldn't do this again. If I was going to do this Stalogy again, I would actually put all of the reference, like that isn't to do with anything calendar based. I just put them all at the back, because I also started doing sort of reference pages at the back, and it would have made so much more sense if I'd have just had everything together. So in hindsight, I would definitely have just put all the reference at the back. So this section here, I would definitely not have here in the future. But then following on from that is the weekly pages. So nothing too spectacular. I just did a sort of weekly vertical layout. Is it vertical or is it horizontal? I have no idea. But this layout on the left-hand side, and then a space for notes here. And I started out pretty practical, really. I didn't really do too much decorating ever, because I find if I decorate a page too much, it sort of detracts from me focusing on what I need to actually do. Some months you can see I did decorate. I want to stick stickers in and do things like that. It just depends on the mood, really, but nothing too over the board. Just kind of randomly, as and when, if I want to stick something, I'll stick something. At some points throughout the year, I tried doing tracking. So this was tracking morning pages, yoga and a walk. and I always have my finances on this side. I did also start tracking like what meals we were eating and things like that. But again, I did that for a few months and then changed my mind. I'm just really flexible with myself with these things, really, because I think if you tie yourself down and commit to doing it a certain way and then beat yourself up when you don't, it just takes the pleasure out. And what's the point? Basically, life's too short. So yeah, I just kind of did random things on each page. So if I just take you to well, I could probably take you to this week. This is this week. So I haven't set anything up on here. I just had a dentist appointment on Monday. I haven't got anything else written down because there's not really all that much happening. But here I will just write my finances. So I would say the absolute bare minimum for my everyday planner has to be a weekly view with things that I have to do. The grey dots here are my rubbish days and the yellow dots are birthdays. Red dot is something to do with money. So that means that something specific is happening on that day, which I think is my son's lunch money coming out of my account. I don't write down, because all of these things, like the rubbish days and people's birthdays, are all written on the monthly calendar, and I don't like to write everything out twice because I'm like, I've got time. So if I'm looking at that and I'm like, oh, what is that? I just have to flip to here and find out what it is, and then if I deal with it, I put a tick. So yeah, sort of like colour coding, I suppose. But I will always have a weekly calendar with the basic info, and then I always want to have my finances, writing down what I spend. That's the absolute minimum. And then if I want to do more, I'll do more, basically. And then, like I said, at the back, which I won't show you, there's loads and loads of reference pages. I also started using it as a sort of like a brain dump, writing down to-do lists on here. Like general to-do lists. I tried doing the bullet journal method, because you get, if you set up a A6 Stalogy like this with calendars at the front and then weeklies, bearing in mind I did a lot of blank pages, I'll just show you how much it uses up of the actual notebook. So it uses up, I would say, less than 2/3. Because obviously I did like blank pages and things. So this section here is all my annual and my weeklies. And then you get a really decent amount of note pages at the back. I haven't counted them. But with that much like note paper, you could potentially use it as a bullet journal system, as long as you're not writing absolutely tons, which I never did, to be honest. And I fell off it and started and stopped and started and stopped. So it wasn't even like, it's not a consistent habit of mine. But yeah, I like to be flexible. Sorry if I'm not making much sense, but basically that is the system I've been using this year. Now, my initial plan was to just carry on, straight swap into the Stalogy. So here it is, here's a new one. Now, and there's the Midori A6 cover to go on top. But I am going to go into Hobonichi weeks. So I've had Hobonichi weeks I haven't done it every year. I was quite surprised actually. I just went to look at what I have that I used previously. And I was searching high and low for 2021. And apparently I didn't do one in 2020. I did 2 in 2019, but not 2020. So these are the ones I have. And I'm sorry about the shine. But this is the coffee weeks, which I used in 2018. This is a plain one that I used for my son, like memory journaling to my son. I did in here for the whole of 2019. That was a really nice idea, and I really wish I kind of did that every year, but I didn't. This was my everyday carry for 2019. I really love this tartan cover. And then this one I got in 2021 because I just couldn't resist the swallows. So I've got a bit of a history with Hobonichi weeks, and I kind of felt sad about not getting one this year. And I tried to not have one, and I convinced myself I didn't like any of them. But then I went into a shop and I had a look, because I actually found a shop near to me that actually has a few of the covers in, and I was picking them up and feeling them, and I was like, nope, I miss one. I need to have one. And it does neatly solve the issue for me of like something that's lighter to carry, and that is it has the layout that I want. Basically, it has the weekly on one side and then the blank note page on the other. And so yeah, I'm going in for a Hobonichi weeks this year. I've really only used the Hobonichi Weeks as a daily, everyday carry for 2 years, 2018 and 2019. And I started off being quite decorative about it. Well, occasionally being quite decorative. So I did a few videos showing me decorating my Hobonichi, and I would stick things in and like doodle and fill it. If there's any gaps, I would fill it in with pen and blah, 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 blah. And it's a really, I would absolutely recommend the Hobonichi Weeks if you want to do this kind of thing, if you want to be creative with your planning, because it's a small format. There's not that much pressure. It doesn't take that much time to fill the page up. So if you want to like use it, I think what I did is I would use it fairly empty and practically so that I could see what I needed to do. But then once the week had finished, I would then come in and decorate it. Because I find that if I decorate the page first, like this is probably the most practical sort of layout that I was doing. So appointments and events on the left, and then a massive to-do list on the right, which I did quite well with by the looks of it. But then if I'd have decorated the page first, when I then looked at the page, it would have just done my head in and I wouldn't be able to see anything. Like I would probably miss all of the appointments because I couldn't see them. So what I was doing was using the page practically and then coming back in and decorating. And it is really fun to do it like that. It's like when I look at it now, I'm like, oh, that's quite nice. But I don't think it's any more of value to me looking back than actually the very plain pages. And in fact, I find the very plain pages easier to kind of read and easier to think, oh, that's what we did that week. So I kind of like both, but I don't think I will go back to doing this unless I'm, particularly in the mood. I'm probably intending to use it more like this, very practically, with maybe the odd sort of thing stuck in. But otherwise, it's basically to keep me on track of doing what I need to be doing. So the Hobonichi Weeks that I've chosen for 2022 is the dandelion one. Ta-da! And I really love this one. I'm a huge fan of the bow and tie weeks, as you can see. I had the coffee beans one and the swallow one. I just really love the texture of them. So I noticed this year, as some of you also have noticed, that they came with these thin plastic, I guess to protect the cover, these thin plastic sheets on the front and the back, which although I'm not particularly keen on because it's like an extra use of fabric, I'm sure they're doing this in response to some sort of issue. Perhaps the covers are getting dented in the post, I'm not quite sure. But I kind of was trying to think what they could be used for, because I don't want to just throw them straight in the bin. That doesn't seem quite right. So I had a little think about it, and I was thinking they might be quite useful. Sometimes when you put a clear cover on your weeks, you like to slip in stickers, or you like to slip in like images or photos and things like that, and they can actually end up being a bit wonky because they sort of slip around. And if you didn't want to actually stick your stickers or photos to your cover, you could put the clear cover, how am I going to say this, you could put the sticker on the pieces of plastic, and then you could put the plastic inside the clear cover on cover. Does that make sense? And then they wouldn't sort of slip around because they'd be fixed to the plastic, but you wouldn't actually be getting the sticker stuck onto your cover. Does that make any sense? If it doesn't, ask me in the comments and I'll try and sort of explain it a bit better. But I know from previous experience that they sort of slip down to the bottom and like go a bit wonky and things like that. So perhaps fixing them to these pieces of plastic and then putting the book and these plastic pieces inside the cover on cover would be a solution. Because it's obviously going to fit perfectly, I think. I didn't actually try it, but it'll fit, and the corners are all rounded. So as for the cover, yes, I absolutely love these. I love the feel, I love the different designs they come out with, and I am actually a big fan of dandelions. I think I spent some of the year drawing them at some point. For Patreon, I think, or was it just for personal work? I can't remember, but yeah, I love them. I love just the detail is so gorgeous. And it's always so exciting when you get it out the first time and see where the placement is, and you can sort of feel all the lovely texture. So I'm very happy with mine. I'm not too fussy about the placement, to be honest. I do have like a dandelion, what do you call them? One of the seeds right in the middle of the O on 2022, but I don't mind, that's absolutely fine. So I'm really excited to get into this, and there's not too much more to say about it. I've shown you roughly how I'm probably going to set it out. It's going to be practical, with the to-do list on that side, and probably my financial information, like how much I spend each month. and then just a fairly practical layout on the rest of the pages really. So I'm probably going to put a few stickers in, and I've got to do a load of reference pages at the back as well, my normal reference pages. But otherwise there's not too much else to say really, but I'm really pleased with this cover. I'm so glad I got it, and I can't wait to get it set up and start using it. So there we have it. Those are my replacements plans for next year. So I'm hoping this is going to work out, but things may change. But yes, my weeks is going to turn to a cousin. I'm staying in the Hobonichi, the MD Cotton for my sort of everything catch-all commonplace book. And my everyday carry is going to downsize to a week's because I'm hoping to be getting out and about more. So it's interesting the way the changing in format sort of reflects how I imagine life to change next year. I'm expecting to work more, so my work plan is going from a small one to a big one. And I'm also expecting to be able to get out and about more, so my everyday carry is going from quite a chunky, heavy-ish, not that heavy, but you know, quite chunky A6 to a slimmer Hobonichi cousin. So yeah, that's the current plan. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'm tempted to bring in some sort of format of memory keeping, but I don't know how. That's the one I struggle with, because I feel like I want to do it every day, but I don't do it every day. Just looking back through like last year, it's so nice to see looking back, like a few notes about what we did and just stick a photo down. Like it doesn't have to be loads of stuff. It's just nice to have that to look back through. So this is from 2020, which is the last time I sort of did it properly. I did do a little bit of junk journaling at the beginning of this year because I did my Christmas journal at the end of the previous year, and I love the junk journal system so much. I tried to kind of bring it through to, I think I went through to like April, but then stopped because it's a lot of time and effort to make junk journals. So there's a small part of me thinking maybe to grab a, what's it called? Hobonichi Techo, you know, the English planner, a planner is called, isn't it? In this size, just for like daily journaling, but I don't know, I'm not sure about that. I don't know whether I can justify that cost yet, but it's something I'm thinking about because I feel like this covers all my bases. It covers my my work and personal development, my everyday carry, and then somewhere to plonk everything down. I mean, it may be that I can do memory journaling in here because all my work stuff that I'd normally plonk in here is now going to go in here. So it may be that if I can do memory journaling in here, I don't need to buy another one. And I'm also sort of released from the pressure of dated pages. So that's a possibility. There we go, thinking out loud. But anyway, I'll stop the video now because I'm sure it's incredibly long. And I hope you enjoyed that. And I will speak to you soon. Bye.